All right, so get this. We're going deep on some Cold War tech that's, well, it's straight out of a spy movie. The Milox spy camera. I know you've always been fascinated by those Cold War gadgets.
Oh, yeah.
And this one, I think you'll agree, is legendary.
It is. And you know what makes it so fascinating to me? It's that it wasn't some, big, bulky piece of equipment. It was all about being small and discreet, practically invisible.
Exactly. And we've got some amazing sources to work with here. Declassified documents, probably from those Stasi archives in East Germany, the secret police files.
Right.
They give us this incredible look at how this tiny camera was actually used.
Yeah.
Plus, we've got, of course, the technical specs and some historical overviews. We can really paint a complete picture here. So imagine this. Cold War, tensions are high. You need to gather intel without anyone knowing.
Yeah.
That's where the Milox comes in.
It was unbelievably small.
Yeah.
I mean, we're talking 72 by 46 by 18 millimeters. That's like, it could fit in the palm of your hand.
Yeah.
Try to sneak that past enemy surveillance.
I can barely find my keys in my purse. So the idea of a camera that tiny, mind-blowing. But being small wasn't its only trick, was it?
No, definitely not. The film format was, well, it was also unique. It used 11.5 millimeter film, but get this, it was unperforated.
Okay, wait, no little holes along the edges,
Yeah.
like normal
Yeah,
film.
none.
Okay, so why does that even matter? Was it just like a weird quirk?
It was all about saving space. Unperforated film, they could pack more frames into a smaller cassette.
Ah,
Keep that camera compact.
I see. So it's not even just about the tech itself. It's about understanding, like, the mindset of the people using it. Every little detail was designed for stealth.
Absolutely. And to add to that stealth, it had this built-in spring motor for the film and shutter.
Right, a spring motor, like a wind-up toy.
Exactly. No loud clicking sounds to give away a spy's position.
Oh, they had to be silent.
Silent.
It's amazing how much thought went into this thing. It really was like a game changer for espionage.
It really was. And on top of that, the lens was actually super versatile. It could shoot straight ahead, or with a special mirror attachment, it could take pictures at a right angle.
So you could hide it and then, what, like around a corner?
Exactly. Imagine the possibilities.
That's insane. So you have this incredibly discreet camera. How did they actually use it? What did those Stasi documents actually reveal about their methods?
Well, they weren't just relying on its size, they were actually disguising it, like really cleverly. The documents show these diagrams where they concealed the Milox in a jacket sleeve,
A secret compartment.
basically, ready to snap a picture at any moment. But it gets better. One document describes how they made it look like a pistol.
Wow. Okay, that's straight out of a spy film. Talk about blending in.
Yeah.
But using this thing in the field couldn't have been easy, right?
Oh, you're right about that. It had its challenges. The limited film capacity meant spies couldn't just be snapping away like we do today. Every shot had to count.
So each click was, what, like a risk?
Yeah, a risk of getting caught, a
Mhm.
risk of wasting precious film,
Exactly.
and all the settings were manual. It took skill to get a clear image, especially in tricky conditions. And of course, like any piece of tech, there was always that chance it would just malfunction.
Oh, can you imagine that happening in the middle of mission?
That would be a disaster.
Talk about pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's where things take a turn. The Milox wasn't actually developed by the Stasi. It was made by the Meopta company in Czechoslovakia.
Huh, interesting.
Originally for the StB, their version of the Stasi, and then they shared it with the East Germans.
You know what that tells us? That the intelligence agencies in the Soviet bloc, they were working together, sharing resources and tech.
Wow, so it really shows how connected those intelligence networks were behind the Iron Curtain.
Mm.
And speaking of rare finds, the Milox wasn't exactly mass-produced, right?
No, not at all. Very few have actually turned up in collectors' markets, even in the past 15 years. It's super rare, a real piece of Cold War history.
So not just cutting edge, but also, what, like a hidden gem?
A tiny window into a world of secrets and espionage.
Adds another layer to the intrigue, doesn't it?
It absolutely does.
So we've talked about its size, that unique film, even how they disguised it. But how did they actually operate this thing without getting caught? What other secrets did they hide?
Those documents, they're like a treasure trove. One from Dresden back in May of '69. It describes, well, it goes into detail on how they actually used the Milox in the field.
Okay, I'm hooked. What kind of, like, spy tactics are we talking about?
Well, they came up with this, it's pretty clever actually. They mounted the camera on, get this, a special underarm holster.
An underarm holster.
So the agent could, activate the shutter discreetly, even just walking around, like they're doing nothing suspicious.
So it wasn't just, like, point and shoot.
Yeah.
It was way more subtle.
Oh yeah, the whole thing was designed to avoid any weird movements. They even routed the shutter cable through the agent's clothing.
So you couldn't even see it working.
Exactly,
Yeah.
completely concealed.
Wow, the attention to detail is incredible. But even with all that, there had to be some limitations, right? I mean, we talked about the film, but what about things like focusing, composing the shot? How do they
Yeah.
manage that?
That's where it gets even trickier. The Milox, it was essentially fixed focus.
Fixed focus.
Yeah, spies had to rely on like preset distances, guesstimate how far away their target was to get a decent shot.
So a lot of guesswork involved.
Yeah, pretty much. And remember, no viewfinder to frame their shots. Just had to use intuition and experience to, make sure they got what they needed.
Wow. Talk about high pressure,
Yeah,
especially in those tense Cold War situations.
it was. It was definitely demanding. But that's what made these spies so good. Adaptable, quick thinking, real masters of improvisation.
It's amazing to think about the skill, the ingenuity involved in Cold War espionage. It wasn't just the tech, it was the people using it. But, we've talked about the camera, the techniques, the challenges. What does all this mean, in the big picture? What impact did a camera like this have on the intelligence landscape?
The Milox, despite its quirks, it really represents a turning point in spy technology. It's this shift toward miniaturization, covert ops. Totally different from the bulky equipment and obvious surveillance they used before.
So it really changed the game. Like, did it lead to any specific events, any discoveries that we know about?
It's tough to say. Because of how secret these intelligence operations are, it's hard to connect specific dots to the Milox. But its impact, that was huge. This kind of tech allowed spies to blend in, to get information without anyone suspecting a thing.
So less like James Bond, more like a ghost, a shadow moving through enemy territory.
Exactly. And that focus on discrete intel gathering, it had a big effect on, the balance of power during the Cold War. Both sides were trying to outdo each other, and a tool like the Milox, that gave them a real edge.
It's crazy to think that something so small, so seemingly simple, could have such a big impact on, world events.
It shows just how important intel gathering was, in shaping history.
It really does. As we go deeper into this, it feels like we're putting together this massive puzzle. Each document, each spec sheet, it gives us another peek into this secret world.
It's a world that, operates beneath the surface, a world of whispers and shadows. And even though the Cold War's over, these tools, these techniques, they still fascinate us.
It's a reminder that history, well, it's not always about the big battles or the political speeches. Sometimes it's about the people in the shadows, the gadgets they use, the secrets they uncover.
Absolutely. It's a testament to, I think, human ingenuity, our desire to, understand the world around us, even the most hidden parts.
Now, speaking of discoveries, one thing that really struck me was, the amount of work that went into actually developing and testing the Milox. This wasn't just some, off-the-shelf camera, right? This was precision engineering.
Oh, absolutely. The documents, they show this incredibly meticulous process all about refining the camera, testing different films, trying to find that sweet spot between image quality and size,
Right.
adjusting the shutter speed so it could capture clear pictures in any light, even like dimly lit alleyways, smoky cafes.
They were obsessed with getting it right, make sure it worked perfectly no matter what.
Precisely. They even did, extensive field tests, trying out different ways to conceal it. They had to be sure it stayed hidden no matter the situation.
That's incredible. It shows how dedicated they were to, intelligence gathering, how much it mattered to them.
Oh, yeah, it was a top priority. And it wasn't just the technology. They also trained the agents, to use these tools effectively. These guys, they were masters of disguise, blending in, always alert, always aware of their surroundings.
Can you imagine the pressure? Always on edge, knowing that, one wrong move could be disastrous.
The stakes were incredibly high. But that's what makes these Cold War spies so fascinating, right? They were at the top of their game in this world of secrets and danger. They shaped history from the shadows.
And it's important to remember the Milox was just one tool they had. They used all sorts of gadgets, techniques, to gather intel, tiny microphones hidden in everyday objects, coded messages sent over radio waves.
It sounds like something out of a spy novel, but this was real life, happening all over the world. The Cold War, it was a time of intense rivalry. Information was power, and both sides would do anything to get it.
So as we kind of wrap up our deep dive into the Milox spy camera, what's the one takeaway you hope listeners will remember?
I think it's this. The Milox, it's not just about Cold War spying, it's about human ingenuity. It's about that constant pursuit of knowledge. It represents a time when, well, the world was on a knife's edge, but it was also a time of incredible innovation, incredible resourcefulness.
It reminds us that history isn't just, the big events, the big speeches. It's also about the individuals working behind the scenes, the gadgets they use, the secrets they discover. It makes you think, what else is out there? What haven't we discovered yet?
Right. The world of espionage, it's full of untold stories. And every time we find something new, it's like a window into this hidden world full of intrigue and danger. And even though, the Cold War's over, these tools, these stories, they still capture our imagination. They remind us of a time when, well, the world was holding its breath.
Teetering on the brink.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
really makes you wonder what else is hidden in the shadows, just waiting to be brought to light.
That's what's so great about history, isn't it? There's always more to learn, more to uncover. And as we, keep digging into the past, we're going to find new things, fascinating insights into the world of espionage and the people who lived it.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of, Cold War espionage. We hope you found it as fascinating as we did. And until next time, keep exploring, keep asking questions, and never underestimate the power of a small, simple device to change the course of history.